let us begin. So Jay-Z did this sit down interview. Van Jones has a new show on CNN, and he wanted to launch his show with a bang. And so obviously, he was able to get Jay Z on. And for the first 30 minutes of the show, him and Jay Z they talked about all sorts of things, and it was a good interview. Jay caught it. I mean, he kept it mostly politically correct, which I wouldn't expect anything else. But he made a lot of good points on a lot of different topics. They brought up the Me Too movement. They brought up 444, Jay Z's new album, which he was nominated for 8 Grammys yesterday, and he was completely snubbed. He lost. He lost in all 8 categories. But when you're Jay Z, you're not really sweating the Grammys anymore at that point. So I don't really think that's that big of a deal. But yeah, he made this he made this point about Trump, and this is I think the biggest takeaway from that from that interview. Like the thing that people are going to remember the most about it is what he said about Trump, and not necessarily what he said about Trump, because what he said about Trump wasn't even that big of a deal, to be perfectly honest with you. It's more so Trump's reaction that has been as problematic as his reactions always are. You know what I'm saying? And as predictable as his reactions are when it involves black people, because you guys know like Trump likes to hold on. Let me. I'm sending something out on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Twitter right quick. I just want everybody to know that I'm live streaming right now. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, it's not even necessarily what Jay Z said that was really controversial. I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't controversial. He basically called Trump a superbug, and he was making a point about how a lot of people, the problem with racism in America is that a lot of people want to cover it up, which that's something a lot of people have been saying, because they were talking about Trump's shithole comments, and they were talking about some of the things that's been going on in the White House. And Van Jones was basically asking him, is this something where, because Trump has been claiming, black unemployment is down under his administration? I'm gonna touch on that in a second. That's a huge lie. I keep seeing a lot of people put out there. But is this something where, maybe we should kind of just, he didn't really word it like this, but the way I took it was maybe we should kind of excuse the racism if we're doing well. And Jay Z rightfully said no, like of course not, because money isn't everything. And then that's when he brought up Donald Sterling, and he brought up how a lot of people, when racism is called out, you end up getting racist people who basically run and hide. They go back under the cover of darkness, and they're able to maintain their racist ideology and affect all sorts of people. That might work for them, that might interact with them, because we're just basically, he said, spraying perfume on a dumpster or a trash can, or whatever dirty comparison he made it to. And then that's when he brought up Trump. He was like, yeah, it's like Trump. Trump is like a superbug. He was like, when you keep spraying this perfume over this trash can, you get these bugs that keep coming out, and you keep killing the bugs. You keep spraying the bugs every time they come back. But he was like, eventually you're gonna get a superbug, because you're not really dealing with the problem. You're masking the problem, basically. You're covering the problem up. And then he was like, that's how you get Trump the superbug, and everybody started laughing. Everybody got a kick out of that. And that's all he said. And I mean, that's not all he said. It was a 30-minute interview. But that was probably the thing that people are going to take away the most out of that entire interview. And what's crazy is you have had other rappers, okay, like Eminem, who have said far worse about Trump, and Trump doesn't say a damn thing. Trump hasn't sent out a single tweet about anything Eminem has said. You guys remember back in October when Eminem released that 4.5 minute diss track, that freestyle, that anti-Trump freestyle that went viral, and he was saying all types of things about Trump, and then even most recently, which I don't have a problem with. You guys know me. I don't have a problem with that at all. But even most recently, I just have a problem with hypocrisy. But even most recently, he called Trump, he said, quote, Trump, he said it like this. He was like, quote, a effing turd would be a better president than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has yet to say anything about that. Donald Trump has yet to say anything about Eminem or anything, any of the things that you would think Trump, because Trump is kind of he's a little soft. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have that thick of a skin. He's kind of thin skinned. Okay, he gets jealous when people like Steve Bannon get more shine than him, and Steve Bannon is on the cover of magazines. He gets upset when people like not what's the name of that general? His name is on the top of my tongue right now, but it's escaping me. But the guy who John Kelly, when Kelly is getting all the praise and everybody is like, Kelly's he's the quote unquote grown man in the White House, which that's a lie. Kelly is just as problematic as Trump is. Kelly is smarter at hiding his bigotry. Okay, but Trump doesn't like that. So now Kelly is in the doghouse a little bit. He isn't fired yet, but he might be in the future. You never know with Trump. So you would expect Trump to say all sorts of things about Eminem. He hasn't said anything yet. As soon as Jay-Z made that comment about Trump and Trump being a superbug, he didn't go on a tweet storm or anything. He made, as far as I'm aware, he only made like one tweet. You know what I'm saying? Which is a little bit for someone like Trump. But that just kind of goes to show you how reactionary this entire White House is when it comes to black people. And when it comes to black people speaking out, they do not like that. It's not to say that Trump hasn't attacked white people too. He has. Okay, but a lot of those people have been politicians. A lot of the people that Trump has attacked the hardest, a lot of the white people that Trump has attacked the hardest, have been people he's forced to work with, or people that he really doesn't like. But you notice, like with black people can just like do regular things, make regular criticisms of Trump, and Trump goes completely ape. He loses his mind. Think about this. Trump has attacked Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is not even a politician, but Trump interjected himself into the whole taking of the knee thing that became a big issue this football season. Trump completely interjected himself into that when he didn't have to. Frederica Wilson, she's a congresswoman. She was tied to the whole scandal with the black soldier getting killed in Niger. And, you guys remember the dust up about that. LeVar Ball. Another man who isn't a politician. He's not even an athlete. He's the father of an athlete. And, he's an entrepreneur. Trump had this whole back and forth with LeVar Ball. Steph Curry, Jamil Hill, and now Jay-Z. Like, something about these entertainers. And even and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but even like I said earlier, April Ryan is not a politician. Now, she's not an entertainer either, but several White House press secretaries have had issues with her. She's been thoroughly disrespected, since this administration has come into power. So this is an administration that just has problems with black people in general. And I find it funny how you get people who try to say that black people are somehow doing well under Trump. I don't know where they're getting their information from, what they're basing that on, what data they're basing that on. They might be speaking on this whole myth of black people doing good under Trump. So let me bring that up. right now. Because one of the ways that Trump pushed back against Jay-Z is by saying, quote, well, he said this on Twitter, quote, "Somebody please inform Jay-Z that because of my policies, black unemployment has just been reported to be at the lowest rate ever." This is how crazy he is. Like, when he said lowest rate ever recorded, he all capped that, like, lowest rate ever recorded, like, and it with an exclamation point, like he's ranting like a madman on Twitter. And that's just not true. It has 55,731 retweets and almost 200,000 likes. That's just his MAGA idiots drinking the Kool-Aid like the Jim Jones sycophants. A lot of them are. But yeah, like that's not even true, and a lot of people have poked holes in this, because this is not the first time Trump has made that claim. He's had a lot of people in his little black pocket of, or back pocket of black collaborators who have been pushing that argument, and I've even heard some knuckleheads on YouTube trying to push that argument too, that black people are somehow doing better under Trump. That's a complete and total myth. Black people are still getting killed. It's just not being talked about. So don't think that just because you're not hearing about killings as much under Trump as you were under Obama, don't think that's just somehow not happening anymore. There's an all-out assault on our rights. There's an all-out assault on our voting rights. Now that's been going on since 2010. It's been progressively getting worse. So that's not really a Trump thing either, but they are doubling down on that. They're trying to cement that. They're trying to make voter suppression easier under the Trump administration because of Jeff Sessions, some of the things Sessions is trying to do, and even that whole defunct, voter commission that's not even a thing anymore. And then too, like, even with the whole black unemployment thing, people have been pointing this out. Black unemployment has been going down since around 2010, 2011. And so that started under Obama. So it's purely just continuing under Trump. Trump doesn't have anything to do with that. Trump hasn't passed any policies for black people or policies that are going to help black people. So what they're doing, see, this is what Trump does. This is what Trump and the right wing, this is what they want to do. They want to take credit for the positive things Obama did without giving him the credit for it. Especially if it's something that they can't destroy. So it's not it's not like the ACA or any of the other somewhat progressive policies that Obama might have passed when he was in power, where they have the ability to basically trash all of that and gut it and get rid of it. So if it's not something they can necessarily get rid of, they just take credit for it themselves. And so the black unemployment rate, that's not a policy. You know what I'm saying? That's not a law. So that's not something that they can actually get rid of. That's not like a law or an executive order that they can just gut. So since they're forced with this reality of the black unemployment rate and the unemployment rate in general, which has decreased since the Obama administration, they just take credit for it. They just say that they're doing something that nobody knows what they're doing to actually do this, when in reality, you'd have to be something of a fool to actually believe that. So, hold on, I just got a message. So yeah, the reality is African Americans are the only group. Okay, this is from an article. Let me pull that article up. This is from a LA Times article, but there are a lot of different articles like this, in this vein, in this fashion. Okay, and this article was written September of last year, so it's relatively recent. It's still pertinent. It's not years old. African Americans are the only U.S. racial group earning less than they were in the year 2000. So you see, Trump is not going to mention this, and even this wasn't even brought up under the Obama administration. There's this weird silence that's going on about the racial wealth gap, about just how far behind financially and economically black people are compared to other groups of people, especially white people. And they only want to talk about the unemployment rate, and that's misleading. Yes, it can, the unemployment rate going down is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's not the only point to be made. That's one metric among many. And even a lot of people have brought this point up themselves. The unemployment rate is even kind of misleading because they don't count people who aren't looking for jobs anymore. So there's a whole group of people that aren't even being included in the unemployment rate. So the real unemployment rate is actually a lot higher, especially when you start looking at the black unemployment rate in particular cities. You have entire cities around the United States where, especially with black males, black men, the unemployment rate is extremely high. Like, it's way high than some of these overall numbers when they sort of like to lump everybody together in one group. Okay, it's way worse than they're actually saying in the media, or it's way worse than Trump is definitely gonna say. So black people, don't fall for this. Don't fall for these Jedi mind tricks, because that's really what it boils down to. That's really what a lot of this stuff is. These are Jedi mind tricks where they're trying to get people to think your condition isn't as bad as it is. So, and then they put, a lot of times they put people on television. There's the whole illusion of inclusion where you see black people in positions of power, so it gives this impression that black people are doing better than we really are. As a group, we're worse off than we were in the year 2000. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna link this LA Times article. I'm gonna put the link in the description box of the YouTube video once I get finished with this stream. But let me actually read a little bit of this article, because that's really all I wanted to say about the whole Jay-Z interview with Van Jones. Let me see. Hold on one second. African Americans are the only racial group the Census Bureau identifies that has been left behind. I was reading this, and I was on this next paragraph. It says the uptick in incomes for so many Americans helped lift the overall median U.S. household income to $59,000 last year, the highest level ever recorded by the Census Bureau. That figure surpassed the previous record set in 1999 during the last period of strong economic growth. Median household income means half of U.S. households earn more and half earn less. It's an important indicator of the health of the middle class. But the overall trend masks that African Americans as a group have not recovered. Black Americans have struggled for years to move up the economic ladder. They have a harder time finding jobs. Merely having a, quote, African American sounding name makes an employer less likely to hire someone, a National Bureau of Economic Research study found. The black unemployment rate is nearly double the white unemployment rate. It's been that way since the Labor Department began keeping track of unemployment by race in the early 1970s. Black Americans also receive substantially less wages than whites and Asians. So, yeah, like that's really all there is to say about that. I'm probably gonna have to dedicate an entire show one day purely just to the racial wealth gap, because that is a huge issue, and it really doesn't get the type of attention it should.